Noon one and all, then we are live on YouTube for our Manchester City versus Southampton Carabao Cup round 4 match build-up show. Joining me today is Ray, City Fan TV. Thanks for coming by, mate. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. When you win games, you always the weekend's always good. So sorry for you guys. Commiserations for Friday night. I mean, that's kind of obviously when you talk to a Southampton fan right now, that's the elephant in the room. That's all we kind of think about.
And we will get to that a little bit. And I guess what your sort of your kind of sort of what did you see of it, and we'll get to that in a little while. But just a message now from our brand new sponsor. Actually, we're excited to inform you that we're now an official fan partner for FansBet. FansBet are committed to share 50% of all net profits with fan causes. Choose the ugly inside when you sign up, and you will be helping us support those causes. More information can be found in the description below. Click down there to find out more. So, Ray, let's talk about then the weekend firstly. Your Premier League game, 3-0 victory at home to Aston Villa. In summary,
Reasonable performance. I thought some City fans are not happy with the first half. They felt it was, we weren't zipping it about enough. But for me, I think we had a decent performance overall. We had a couple of good chances to score in that first half. We scored 3 decent goals in the second half. And for all Villa's endeavour and huffing and puffing, they didn't really create much until late on in the game. And I think we were worthy winners, 3-0. If we'd won 6-0, I don't think anybody could have complained, because I think we had enough chances to win 6 or 7-0.
A bit more conservative with your result at the end of the day, as it were not by Leicester, who were ruthless in their approach and really put us to the sword. And I'm still down about it. And I'm sure there are people out there that still won't be able to get over it. And that's a sort of record that will cling with us now forever.
Yeah, it's going to stick. It's like Ipswich. I mean, they got battered by United. I can't even remember how long ago it was. It was a long, long time ago. And a lot of fans, when you talk about records, they can still remember that it was Man United beating Ipswich. So it's going to stick with you. And until someone gets 10. But even then, if someone gets 10, they'll still remember the 9, because it's recent and it was at home. So someone's going to have to win 10-0 away from home for you to lose those 2 records. And to be honest, I can't see that happening anytime soon.
Yeah, well, there's a comment there from Bobby. Yeah, absolutely right, buddy. What a result of the weekend with the poo emojis. We're going to try and keep this clean. It's only 10 to 3 in the afternoon, so we'll see what happens. Right, do get your comments in for anything you want to ask Ray about, sort of lineups you may want to predict, anything else you may want to ask about City's approach this Tuesday, tomorrow night. But let's cast back to then the previous round. Then Preston North End 0, Manchester City 3. I've looked at the lineups, I've looked at the reviews, and a very strong attacking team in the final sort of thirds, but some youngsters in defence on the day. Yeah. And we spoke about this on your channel just a moment ago. I couldn't name you anybody that sort of played in defence for City on that night.
Yeah, I mean, I've not looked at the lineup, but I'm guessing. I remember that Taylor Howard-Bellis, 17-year-old kid. A lot of promise he has. He was his partner for the EDS Elite Development Squad. I think they're under 21s and under 23s, but these kids are 17 and 18 years old, playing with much older kids. And Eric Garcia, he's a cracking player. He's a wonderful prospect who's just starting to come through. Now, Eric Garcia went on the summer tour last summer to America, and he was fantastic. He was unbelievable, actually. And I remember Pep saying that he played like he had the head and the experience of a 23 or 24-year-old. And he was only 17 at the time. We got him from Barcelona, and they were very unhappy to lose him. I think Carlos Puyol was involved with that. And, he's kind of going from a legend at Barcelona to a person that they didn't want to have around, because he was taking their best players and sending them to Man City. I think we got another kid from them as well, Adria Banabi, left-footed winger. So those 2 kids, very, very good. And I think against Preston, they were pretty much almost faultless. Odd mistake here and there, but you'd expect that from kids, from them. I think we'd have had Angelino on the left,
Mm.
who's 22 years old. He's hardly ever played for City, even though we've had him on our books for about, I think, 4 years. We sent him out on loan to New York City, sent him to NEC Brera in Holland, and then I think we sold him to PSV for about 5 or 6 million quid. But the way we generally do things with kids, we bought him back. We had either do a sell-on clause or a buyback. So we bought him back as he's in effect third choice left back. But he's going to, I think by the time he finishes at City, if he stays for a couple of seasons and then gets sold on, he'll be sold for a lot more than 5 or 6 million quid. And then probably at right back we had Joao Cancelo. I'm guessing if you didn't recognise him, and he's a lad we got from Juventus, Spanish kid, very, very good. But I think we haven't seen enough of him yet. We haven't seen him tested as a defender because we've had so much of the ball, and he's looked quite good going forward. But we want, for me, I want to see what he's like in defence. And then you would have had Phil Foden playing. Obviously, everybody's heard of him, probably not seen enough of him yet. He's trying to get through, and I think he's got the ability to get through. He just needs a bit more experience. But just as Pep said after the game against Atlanta, where he got 2 yellow cards, he needs that experience to know you've got 1 yellow card. You should really be very careful to not get a second. But even if you got experience, Fernandinho got sent off at the weekend, and he's almost double Foden's age, so it can happen to anyone.
Yeah, I mean, Foden, I think it's only a matter of time that he breaks into the first England team. I think he's knocking around the under-21s at the moment, scoring some goals, playing some fantastic football, great with both feet. But, as you say, you've got some dilemmas at the moment. I've got a list here. You've got sort of 5 key players out of fact at the moment. Fernandinho suspended for this game tomorrow, double yellow card against Villa. Rodri, Zinchenko, Laporte, Sane, all injured. So what will Pep do then? Who will he rotate? I mean, I've seen the statistic the other day, actually. Pep, in fact, if you're using this Carabao Cup game as an opportunity for the youngsters, which is almost shying away from for almost £1 billion that you spent over on your first team in the last sort of 4 or 5 years.
It's been more than 4 or 5 years. I think the £1 billion has been spent over the last 10, 11 years since Sheikh Mansour bought City back in 2008. So that £1 billion would have been over those 11 years. And if you say it still sounds like a lot of money, if you break it down and say it's averaging at about 80 to 90 million pounds or 100 million pounds a season, still a lot of money. I'm not going to shy away from that. And we've been lucky to be in this position where we got taken over by rich owners who can actually afford to do that. But right now, they're not doing it anymore. So it was, the City were pumped with cash when we needed it to take us to that next level. And now, basically, the revenues are so high, we're living within our own means, which is why we can't go out and buy Harry Maguire for 90 million quid or Mathis de Ligt for 80 million quid. We just won't do that. But I don't think it's going to be a lot of kids. I don't think we're going to see a lot of kids. Maybe 3 or 4 at the most. And 2 of them probably will be Taylor Howard-Bellis and Eric Garcia again. I can see them both playing because Fernandinho, who's a cover at centre-back, he's injured. Rodri, who could have covered at centre-back, Fernandinho's out, suspended. Rodri's injured. And then we've left with Stones and Otamendi. And realistically, I'd rather save them for the weekend for you guys. So we could see Taylor Howard-Bellis and Eric Garcia. We could see one other kid. Maybe Angelino gets a run out again. Whether you think 22 is still a kid or not, I'm not sure. But I think he's going to have to mix it up with players who are rotated, like Mahrez. Mahrez didn't play in the league. I expect Mahrez to play in the cup against you guys. Aguero didn't play in the league. I'd expect Aguero to play against you guys, which is probably not the kind of news you want to hear.
Absolutely not. And I think, you've got quality in abundance. And I think probably one of the strongest team with the most amount of depth that you've got in your sort of 18 sort of match day squad. I think you've got more depth than Liverpool, who've only got really sort of 3 players to call upon when they bring on the substitutions. Where you've got an extra man in every area of the field that could easily go into any. Well, it could be the first team Man City, it could be anybody in the Premier League. You say Mahrez, Aguero could both be starting, but equally, at the other end of the pitch, if we manage to somehow get hold of that ball, get into that final third, there could be an exploitation sort of there with the defence, the inexperience. Perhaps we can get Ings on the ball, smart player to get in between the lines, and maybe Redmond to break those youngsters and sort of put the ball through their legs and skip it through to the goal.
I don't think you'll be getting through the ball through Eric Garcia's legs. From what I've seen, I think Attila Howard-Bellis, he's not played as much. He's a year younger than Eric, and he's only coming through now. So I think you could look at him as not having enough experience. I think for what Eric Garcia has won with Spain, like I think it was the under-20 Euros in the summer. I think he's won something in the past with them as well. So he's got experience of big tournaments and winning stuff. And the games he's been entrusted with at City, played, I think, at least one of the legs in the Carabao Cup semi-final last season. Okay, I think we were 9-0 up at the time after the first leg, but he's still got...
mentioned 9-0s in this show.
Sorry, mate. I said I wouldn't. But Eric Garcia's got that experience of being entrusted to play at a high level. He played a lot of the cup games last season. So I wouldn't look at them as the weakness. I would look at Angelino as the weakness. I mean, he, in effect, is our third choice left back. If Mendy doesn't play, I don't see why he should play. He's played 3 games on the bounce. He's had a long injury last season. He's had a little injury this season. I don't expect him to play. I expect Angelino to get the run out. I think he came on a sub on Saturday to give him a little bit of a few minutes on the pitch before he plays against you guys. But Angelino, I don't think he's the fastest. And I think sometimes the pace of the wingers catches him out, and he does make mistakes positionally as well. So for me, that's probably where I'd focus. On the other wing, you might have Walker starting, so I wouldn't be looking at Walker to provide the weakness in our back four. I think it's Angelino playing at left back.
All right. Well, I hope Ralph has done a bit of his homework, because we need a reaction of all reactions tomorrow night. You know, we want to see some characters, some actual fight. You know, we've seen the team now donate a day's wages to the Saints Foundation, who, you know, it apparently totaled over £200,000 donation to the Saints cause. Great sort of cause, you know, supporting young adults and underprivileged children in the local area. But a day's wages is just a drop in the ocean for everybody. But I think we want to highlight a couple of players here. Let's go to our comments over on YouTube. Dean has asked, you know, a player that has obviously linked the two clubs recently, what have you made of Angus Gunn when he was at Man City? I mean, he's come under quite a lot of criticism, especially from our comments, our videos, etc. recently, and far too eager to come off his line recently and make himself look a bit silly recently.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Angus Gunn. He looked like he had a bit of quality about him. His problem was, you got to look who's in front of him. He was never going to make it at City. And at the time, we had, I think Edison had just joined, but we had Bravo. There were other people ahead of Gunn, and really, Gunn wasn't. He was too good to be playing with the academy. He was far too good, which is why he went out on loan at Norwich. He did well there, and that's why he ended up at Southampton. So I think he's got a lot of potential, and I think he will eventually be a very, very good goalkeeper. He's already been involved with the England first team. I think when someone got injured and they needed an extra keeper, was it last year? So he's got a little taste for it. And looking at England's number 1 right now, Jordan Pickford, I mean, you know, he doesn't look like the safest pair of hands. But sadly for Gunn, neither does he. The bits and pieces I've seen of him this season with you guys, I think he made one absolute terrible highlight. Did he let one in through his legs or something ridiculous?
But a handful of times has made himself look like a statue. The ball's fired past him as he's making his best impression of a Subbuteo figure, with his arms up high but nothing else. There's 2 or 3 times this season has come firing off his line, trying to collect the ball. There's been no communication with the centre-back, and if we look at the Chelsea goal, Tammy Abraham comes for the ball, gets his toe and it loops over the top, goes across the line. You see his efforts, it's judged to go across the line. But also the Bournemouth game, where he comes right off his line. There's no communication once again with Bednarek, who have a total mix-up, and I think Wilson could have got down on his hands and knees and nodded it in.
Yeah, like we used to do as kids when you get it on the line, you get down and head it in. And if you really had a lot of time, you hit it with your backside or something, and then try and then it's get up quick and run away, because if you take the mick out of other people like that, they want to stick the boot in. But I mean, as I said, I think he will come good, but he needs experience. And it's it's like the problem is the only way to get experience is by throwing him in there, and he's going to be making mistakes, and hopefully he'll iron those mistakes out. But in your position, can you really afford that? Can you really afford to give him the opportunities to make those mistakes while you're fighting for your lives in the league? I don't think you can.
Yeah, and a comment there from Bobby once again with the poo emoji. Angus's performances recently have been that sort of emoji, mate. I'll give you that. But Alex, he says he must play in both the games, and I think it's about time Alex McCarthy does displace Angus Gunn in the limelight in the starting 11. You know, if we look at the example of Shea Adams recently taken away from the first team because he hasn't been sort of firing and come under a bit of pressure, so perhaps Angus Gunn needs to get that treatment to sit on the sidelines for a few weeks, see how McCarthy gets on, give him 10 games, see where we get to Christmas time, and that's sort of where McCarthy and Angus Gunn were introduced over the last 2 seasons or so. And there's another comment here from Arman, who asks, do you think any youngsters will start tomorrow? So Ray's already addressed that. I think maybe 2 or 3 in the back line, but I think rotation from our point of view is widely expected. I wouldn't be surprised if Ralph puts in sort of 8 or 9 changes, maybe 1 player or 2 players that retain their place, and the players that showed the most amount of commitment, and that's hardly any, and that's really clutching at straws.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've already mentioned the City players. We'll get a few hits in the back line, maybe Foden as well. But to be honest, there are too many good players who are not starting every week. People like, as I said, Mahrez and Sergio didn't play at the weekend. I expect them to start. There's other people who want games, who you could argue deserve games. But I think the youngsters will be at least 2 or 3 across the back.
I hope to see maybe 1 or 2 promoted from the under-23s from the Saints team. Hopefully, Callum Slattery gets his chance once again, and Jake Vokins, who is now our only a natural left back. I hope to God that we do not see Kevin Danso play once again at fullback. Does he introduce Cedric again at left back out of position, or does he put right-footed Jan Valery on the left-hand side? So more questions than answers at the moment for Saints in the formations. So I think what we'll have to do is sit deep, stay disciplined, and ultimately don't concede a red card after 5 or 10 minutes. Otherwise, we've got another mountain to climb. But I think it could be said that Pep Guardiola might have other priorities at the moment. You're on 4 competitions. Although this competition does end in February, sort of before the business end, but he could well be distracted by the Champions League and the Premier League games ahead of, the week after next.
I don't think the Champions League should be a distraction. Now, we won all 3 of our games in the Champions League so far. We sit top of our group with 9 points. Next 2 teams have got 4. 1 more win gets us through the group as probably as champion, group winners. So, and we play in Atlanta away, and we've got another game at home as well. So I don't think that is something for us to worry about just yet. The league obviously is, with Liverpool. They've got a mixture of barnstorming play, a bit of luck, and they keep winning. So we've, for us, if you ask us, which one of the 2 is the most important, Tuesday night or Saturday, it's going to be Saturday. But I still think we want to win them both. As I said to you earlier, having the final in February, and it's given a chance for 3 or 4 of either your youngsters or your second stringers, let's say, a run out, then I think we want to take that. I mean, you get to that stage where you just want to keep winning, and I think the board and the management. I still think it starts you off well. If you can win the Carabao Cup, at least you got something in the bank, and then you can look at the other things after that.
I think it could be said that once again, would you say the Carabao Cup is once again a priority? Obviously, the holders at the moment, and the cup draw will open up. This we said sort of before the draw was when the draw was announced, we've got on paper Liverpool versus Arsenal, Chelsea versus Man United. So whoever goes on to win this game could well feel, obviously City are favourites for this game. There's a reason why Saints are almost 33-1, almost 40-1 with some bookmakers to win this game in 90 minutes. But we could see this chance that as the cup draw is opening up. Best opportunity, especially for Saints, to try and reach a cup final.
Absolutely. I mean, as fans, when you're not winning anything and you're fighting against relegation. I still think a lot of fans would prefer to win a trophy and get relegated than stay up. I don't know what you guys are like, but I know the Wigan fans, if you talk to them, I mean, they're in, I think, still in League One at the moment, but if you ask them about the last 10 years, the good things in their history, that FA Cup win against City is always going to be there. So whatever division you're in, you still got the memories of that victory, and no one can ever take it away from you. So I don't like it when clubs and City have been guilty in the past, and other clubs prioritise other competitions and just let the cup competitions, dwindle away into nothing, because the fans want to win stuff. I've gone through so many years. I'm a City fan for well over 40 years, and most of that time we won nothing. And a lot of that time we were rubbish, up and down, and sometimes down and down. I mean, you guys have done this something similar, and you end up coming back. But the fans want to win something, and we've been fortunate. After 34 years, we won something again. 35 years, so fans just want to win stuff. And if that ends up with you getting relegated that season, sometimes as a fan, you think, so what? I mean, what do you think about that? Would you rather win the Carabao Cup and get relegated?
This is a conversation we held to our supporters last season, when we were, or the season before last, when we were a semi-final of the FA Cup. No, the season before last. So we made the semi-final of the FA Cup, went to Wembley, played Chelsea, sort of capitulated in that game. But a lot of us would have taken a relegation to take some glory in the cup. Ultimately, we've only got one cup in our entire history. That is the FA Cup in '76. So way before I was born. So I haven't seen us lift a major trophy. Obviously, seen the 2010 JPT, something you'll never win. Johnston Paint Trophy, you'll never win that as what we can claim against you.
We had the Villa fans at the weekend saying European champions, you'll never sing that. And are you going to guys come up tomorrow and say JPT, you're never going to win that?
Absolutely, we can cling on to that. Absolutely, there's no way that Man City will go down any time in the next sort of 40 or 50 years. So, and I think it will be a very much a long record list for you as well. But let's fire things up with some lineups then. And actually, there's a statistic that I read last season. In fact, City have not lost at home to the Saints since 2004. Last season's game was 6-1, and actually Edward has joined us from your channel here. Ings scored at the Etihad last season, so I do hope Danny gets on the score sheet once again tomorrow.
Well, I don't mind if we score six again. I don't mind giving Danny Ings a goal, even give him two. He's probably your most potent threat, I think, Danny. Would Ralph drop him for Shane Long? Could that happen and save Ings for where it really matters at the weekend?
Difficult one. I mean, Danny came off after 45 minutes on Friday, so that was just sort of to shore things up, in quotations mark. We introduced 2 defenders and still considered 4 more. But I think it could be a chance for Shane to get a cameo once again, maybe start push the lines. He's very much an isolated striker, and he feeds off scraps, and which is what Danny Ings has been done recently anyway. But hopefully Shane Long can sort of expose some fragility in the youngsters from the City defence as well. And I do hope, as Jeff has commented here, that Man City will play their under 13s to give us some sort of chance.
There was a video going around from City's under 13s team. I think it was under 13s team a few months ago, showing them bringing the ball out from the back, beating the press, and going down to score a goal. And there was a player there. Thierry looks a lot older than 13, but the under 13 side is pretty good as well. You mentioned Shane Long, and one thing I like, or don't like about him, I'm worried about him. He's very, very fast. He's got the pace. I think he's much faster than Danny Ings, and I think that's where you could have some joy against Angelino, who has been up against it a couple of times this season. In pre-season, he was really poor against the West Ham player, forget his name, was it Phillips or Fredericks? Very, very fast. And he left him on his backside a couple of times. He conceded 1 penalty to him. Actually, he should have conceded a second because it was a blatant foul that wasn't given. But this is in pre-season. And at that point, we were worried because he was tactically struggling, and he didn't have the pace. So it was someone like Shane Long, who's got a lot of experience, got a pace to burn. I think Shane Long out on your right, rather than through the middle, could cause some trouble for Angelino. I expect Angelino to play rather than Mendy. I think Mendy needs to rest. He's had 3 games on the bounce, and I think Angelino will play. And he's vulnerable, and it's up to you guys to take, to look at that and take charge of it and make something happen there.
Well, I hope, Ralph, you are listening, and hopefully you use that in your pre-match sort of tactics.
If you use that in your tactics, I want a consultancy fee, of course.
We'll send the invoice in the post, Ray. Right, let's try and wrap this up then in the next sort of 5 minutes. A lot of comments coming through now. City should start Edison up front. Did you see him in the charity match? I haven't seen it, but what did you see it?
I think did he score 2 goals or a goal and set something up? Edison, the thing is, I mean, Edison could easily play midfield. Absolutely no problem. He could play midfield. But I just don't think he wants to run around, which is why he ended up as a goalkeeper. And I don't think his passing is as good this season as it was last season, but it's still pretty phenomenal. I think his shot stopping has improved. Claudio Bravo will play in goal, I think, on tomorrow night. He's our second choice keeper. And I think actually as a second choice keeper, he's one of the best around. Mid-30s. He's been around. He's seen it, done it. He's won it. And I think he's a very, very good backup keeper. I think he'll do us a good job. And I think he's saved us in penalty shootouts. So there's no problems with Bravo. And yeah, Edison, there's not many goalkeepers that either score goals in the league or set up, get assists. But Edison got an assist last season. And I think he'll quite possibly get another 1 or 2 this season.
Yeah, I do remember that. It went straight over, was it the Liverpool game or Tottenham game? Straight over the top. And, it was something deployed from Big Sam's textbooks, the Route 1 football, and he's the ultimate sort of playmaker for that.
But it's not meant to be, it's not Route 1. Yesterday, on Saturday, we did a bit of a Route 1 when he just cleared it. Gabby Jesus headed it on and Sterling scored. But we do have this thing where if teams are trying to press us, we'll keep 3 men up. And we usually get one of them to drop into midfield where there's space. Or if the defenders are pushed up too far, Edison will knock it over the top. And I wouldn't call it a long ball. I wouldn't call it a Sam Allardyce type football or Tony Pulis. But it's a tactic that and a strategy that should be used when teams are trying to press and close the space down and stop our natural passing game. Because if you have someone like Leroy Starney playing up front, or Raheem Sterling, or even indeed Aguero, even though he's lost a little bit of pace in recent years, it gives you a great opportunity. If people aren't focused and concentrating, it gives you a good chance to get past them. And like I said, he got that assist last season.
Edward comments, Route 1 bypasses VAR. And, apart from sort of Friday and the final decision from the Wolves game, VAR has been our best defender so far this season. Is VAR in action tomorrow night? Do you know?
In the League Cup, I honestly don't know. I know it's in the FA Cup from the quarterfinals onwards, but I'm honestly not sure about tomorrow. I don't think it would be. If it just seems odd that the FA Cup would be from the quarterfinal onwards, and the Carabao Cup would have it at all. So I honestly don't know. It's something I might check up.
Because it has been employed in the Premier League grounds in the Carabao Cup competitions. It wasn't in action at Fratton because their stadium was built in the 1800s, so they can't accommodate that. But it is capable, you would say, at the Etihad, and I think it had been played at the Etihad sort of last season. So I remember seeing a review system sort of there last season. Right, a few comments coming in about score predictions. Okay, let's go to where is it? I've just missed it. Jeff reckons 15 goals incoming. I hope that's a 14-1 victory to the Saints.
Well, at least let us get 7-8. At least let us make it a close game. 7-8.
Callum also comments, Southampton win, beat City 3-2. Mate, I would take that all day long. I love that enthusiasm, but ultimately it's going to be a mammoth task to pick up the boys from the canvas, who obviously conceded 9 on Friday. And just quickly then, Ray, what did you see of it? Did you see any highlights, and what sort of comments have you heard from the critics?
Yeah, I do a Premier League review show. I'm involved with that. So I have to watch the highlights. And, I didn't like to see 9 goals going past anyone unless they're of a red persuasion from Anfield or Old Trafford. Then I wouldn't mind at all. But it was your guys. What saddened me as a fan was some of your players obviously give up at 2 or 3-0 down. Bertrand, he got sent off. Did he care? I mean, he's one of your longest serving players. You'd have hoped it would have mattered a little bit more to him. And some of the other guys said, look, we're going to lose this. They couldn't be bothered. There was there were a couple of goals where it looked like the Leicester players were just waltzing past the Saints defenders. And as I said, that saddens me as a football fan, because the minimum you want from your players, the minimum is to give it everything. And they could be rubbish. They could be actually rubbish. You could be beaten by a much better team, but you want to see them giving everything on the pitch. And for me, I don't care about a day's wages afterwards. Yeah, it should have been a week's wages, because it was that poor of a performance. And like you, I'd be disgusted with what some of those players, the effort they put in that game, and it was more than disappointing. Leicester were ruthless. Once they got you down, they were going to keep you down and keep on battering you. If it was a UFC fight, the ref would have cowered over the guy on the floor, and Leicester were the guy who's still hitting them while the ref's trying to protect the guy on the floor. So Leicester just kept on going, and they scored. They had 13 shots or something, and scored with 9.
It could have easily been double figures. I remember, I think Evans missed from a yard out. Didn't manage to get a connection on that. I think there was another few opportunities as well. If you want to look at sporting analogies as well, the referee would have thrown in the white towel well before we even sort of got to 30 minutes. But a couple more predictions then from Bobby. Predict 2-2. We'll lose on pens. Okay, spirited performance. A bit of a comeback, if you like, a bit of a reaction from the lads. And Jeff says, honestly, I think 5-0 City. I don't think we've got a snowball's chance in hell. I just hope that the aggregate is much lower than Friday's fixture.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want it to be something like that. I mean, that's depending on, as I said, on your opponents. For Saints, for me, if we can walk away with something like a 3-0, I'd be more than happy and get that done nice and early, and rest a couple of players that need a rest, because we've lost I think 5 players who are injured or suspended, and we've got a couple of long-term injuries and a couple of shorter-term injuries. So the more rest we can get into some of our players, obviously the better it is, because we've got to play you guys again at the weekend.
Right, I think we might call it there then. Just sign us off then in your prediction then, Ray. I really would love that to happen, Bobby. Just sort of predict 2-2, but I would just hope, crossing my fingers, my toes, praying to the God that we might even squeeze through on a penalty shootout. And stranger things have happened. But what do you think it might be then? Is there a small possibility that there was a fear of a backlash after Friday's humiliation?
Look, you're in the Premier League, so you've got to have something about you. You've got good players, some good players, and look, Norwich beat City. Look at Norwich; they're conceding goals for fun, second from the bottom of the table, and they even lost to United. I mean, away, at home, United haven't won in the league away from home for so long. So anything can happen in football. You got a chance. Everybody's got a chance. And if you can get a draw out of the game and get onto penalties, then it's 50-50. But in all reality, I think if we put a half decent team out, which I think Pep will do, he'll put a competitive starting 11, and I think that'll probably be too much for you. I don't think you're going to put your best team out. I don't think Ralph is going to put the same 11, because then I think you'd be demoralised for the weekend. I see you making at least a few changes and getting some new faces in to give them a chance.
It's quick score prediction then, Ray.
3-0 City.
All right. There we go. But great to speak to you. And if you want to follow Ray, do head down into the description below to subscribe to Ray's channel. Thanks so much for joining us, and thank you all in the comments. Thanks, Ray.
Cheers, mate. Thanks, Reddy.